and good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Scanner Guys. Let me just get that to focus. There we go. Good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Scanner Guys. I'm Jonathan Higgins, and we're broadcasting live from our Cincinnati studios. So we've got a great show tonight. We're talking about the SDSs, one of the favorite topics of many of the audience members that watch the show each and every week. This is a hot topic, so we want to cover some of the 5 things you should know about the Uniden SDS100 and 200. So we've got a lot of things to cover tonight, so let's start the show right now. So let's go back to that slide deck and go through a couple of slides. So these are the things that we're going to be covering tonight. So this is kind of our rundown. So we're going to be talking about the display and the buttons. So overall, a tour of the radio. So if you're not familiar with it, we're going to talk about the programming software, what's available other than Sentinel. We're going to also talk about digital add-ons. Do you need them? Don't you? We're going to talk about why this radio is so popular with Simulcast. And we'll also talk about GPS scanning, so if you're using this radio mobily. So those are the top 5 things that we're going to talk about tonight. So if you've been curious about those things, we're covering them tonight. Excuse me. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. And thescannerguyshow.com is the official website, so you can shop our store, contact us, and sign up for our newsletter. Of course, shop our store helps us to pay for the streaming software and what such. So definitely help us out with that, and with, of course, upgrades of equipment here in the studio as well. The newsletter, we periodically send that. I haven't sent one in a while, so we're due. And then, of course, you can contact us through the website. Keep in mind, I try to get back to you as quickly as I can. And I've been a little hectic and crazy with things that have been going on, so there might have been a slight delay. So definitely be on the lookout if you've emailed us recently. So trainaficionado.com is the official website for Train Aficionado. And you can check out those shows on the opposite Wednesdays of the Scanner Guys. So the next show is Wednesday, July the 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We will be posting some more events on trainaficionado.com/events. Last weekend, we were out at Ludlow, Kentucky, for a rail fanning gathering, and I met Michael, which is one of our viewers, and it was a great conversation with him. We talked about so much stuff, Simulcast and things that are local to him in Kentucky, and of course some of the things here in the Cincinnati area. So we had a great conversation. He actually owns a couple of the the SDS100 and 200. So we're going to have another event, probably the first Saturday of the month. We haven't announced that as of yet. And then we're also going to have some scanner classes coming up in the fall. We will have some in-classes at the Cincinnati Railroad Club, and we'll also have probably some sort of class with scanning and rail fanning virtually as well. So I'm working on that as well. So definitely keep that in mind. I see all the check-ins that are coming in. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So these are the things that we're talking about. The 5 things you should know about the Uniden SDS100 and 200. So let's start it off. We're going to start talking about those display and the buttons, what they all do. So we're going to give you a guided tour around the radio. We'll start off with what is the SDS100 and 200. It is an IQ scanner. It incorporates a software-defined radio technology. It's less hardware, more software-driven. So that means more features can be added on through firmware updates. That's what sets this radio apart. It's more of a software-driven scanner versus a hardware-driven scanner. So that's something to keep in mind there. It's unique and different versus all the other radios, in its class, such as the 536 and 436, the 536 and 436, the 325P2 and the 996P2 along with the Home Patrol 2. So it's completely different because it's an IQ scanner. So let's take a tour around the SDS100. We'll start right at the top. So like any other portable scanner, it's got a headphone jack. It actually has a protective flap on it, so it'll protect it if you were out in a light rain or what have you. You're not going to get any moisture in there. We also have a multifunction knob, which is very popular with the Uniden radios. So for example, if you push down and turn, it's going to adjust the volume. If you do a function and then push down and turn, it's going to adjust the squelch. And then if you're going to do scrolling through the channels, you would press the radio and a hold, and then you could scroll without pushing down. You just use that knob and turn. We also have an alert lights on the top there, as you can see. We also have a large display, full color, customizable, which is really nice. It also has some soft keys. As you can see, the labels on the screen just at the bottom there, and then you also see the soft keys just below. So those 3 keys are associated with those menu options on the screen. With this radio, you power it up with a button. So you would press that button in the bottom right. You would press it and hold it for a couple of seconds, and it will power up. Also, that button is dual purpose. So if you want to turn that keypad light on, let's say you're in a dark environment, you can press that. Like many of the other radios, the avoid button, basically aka the lockout button. So you're avoiding those particular channels or talk groups. So it's kind of an avoid versus the word lockout. It's kind of a little bit more fancier than the word lockout. You were basically avoiding those particular channels. Of course, if you tap it once, it's going to do a temporary avoid. If you tap it twice, it's going to be a permanent avoid. And then going all the way up to the side of the radio, we've got the menu button and the function button. Those are rubber buttons on the side, nice and big. You can't really miss them. And of course, the menu button is very important to be able to navigate into that menu, and then you can use that multi-function scroll knob will allow you to shuffle through the menu. And then of course function, as I mentioned, adjusting the squelch, you would press the function button and push it down, and you would adjust the squelch. Wow, that is some news right there, right here from Joe Bearcat. Let's post that right up on the screen here. New models should not be too far in the distant future. There's been some radios waiting for the past 18 months to be released. So that is some big news right here from Joe Bearcat. Hopefully those newer models, whatever they may be, will be released relatively soon. That'll be great news for some of you that have been chomping at the bit for a new radio or something new from Uniden. Let's take a look at the SDS200. So we're going to take a tour. We'll start on the right side of the radio and then work our way back around to the top. So with this radio, very different than the 536 and the 996. The volume knob is actually in the top right corner. Usually that volume knob is just below it, opposite of where the squelch is on this radio. So the volume knob's there, and also is push button action to be able to turn on the backlight. Where you have the squelch, that's a knob there, and then push button there for the menu. We have a LAN, L-A-N connection. That can be used with any third-party software for virtual control or virtual screen, such as ProScan. You can connect it up to that and run it through the LAN line. You also have a micro USB connection. Where all the other radios have the mini, this is the micro connection. So the cable that comes with the SDS200, make sure you hold on to that, because this radio needs a different cable than your SDS100, your 436, your 536, your 996P2, and your 325P2, and your Home Patrol 2. All those radios take the same cable, but this radio is different. It has a micro USB connection. Like many of the other Uniden radios, it's got a SD card for those database radios, like the 436, 536, and the Home Patrol 1 and 2. It's a micro SD card. What you do is you take your little fingernail, press on it, and it will eject it out. And then you'll be able to eject it in just by pushing in, and then should take care of that. We have a USB-A. The USB-A connection is still a mystery connection jack. There's plans, hopefully in the future, for this USB-A. I have tested this jack and connected up my Home Patrol 2, and it was able to power the Home Patrol 2, which was interesting. So hopefully we'll have some sort of functionality for that USB-A jack in the front of the radio. Very much like the SDS100, we have some soft keys and labels on the screen. So of course in this case, going from left to right, the first soft key is for the system, and the second one's department, and the next one's channel. So while the radio is scanning, you can hold in any one of these positions. So if you want to hold on the system, you of course press the system. You want to hold on the department, press that, and the same goes for the channel. Headphone jack on the front. Also, you have on the rear of the radio, we have a external speaker jack. This radio does not, which I really wish it did, had a record jack in the rear. Hopefully, in future models, they'll add back in a record jack, because that comes in handy. One, for if you're setting up a Broadcastify feed, or you're recording the radio transmissions to your computer, or you're connecting it up to a Bluetooth transmitter, for those Bluetooth speakers around the house. We also have an alert light, which is there right above the function and scroll knob. So using the function knob, you're gonna scroll through. It is a push button, so you can use that for menu options. While you're scrolling, you can push and select those particular items. This screen on this radio is indeed massive. It is almost the size, if not, of a Home Patrol 1 or 2 screen. It is not a touchscreen display like the Home Patrol 1 or 2, but it's a really nice full color display. Once again, customizable, which we're going to cover in a second. Here's a simple display view. It looks very much like the Home Patrol 1 or 2. The first section is the system, next section is department, and the next one is channel. We also have fields up on the top that are optional fields, and those can be customizable, which are really nice. We also have down on the bottom, same thing down there, and then of course what you can't really change is those soft key menu options that are down below. But all of these are customizable, so you can see on the left what that looks like, written up, and then on the right you're able to see the actual screen. This, in this case, is the screen of the SDS100. Let's continue on. Here's the advanced display. So you can see here we have the ability to put a lot more on the screen. So if you're super geeky and you want to be able to have a lot of information on the screen, this is the display for you. It's going to show a lot of things, yet again, customizable. It smushes down the system, the department, and channel line, and adding more fields of data, as you can see on the screen. I would strongly recommend, if you're using the radio mobily in the vehicle, using the basic display. You're not having to squint so much at what's on the screen there. If you're using it in the home and you want all the details, run this screen. This screen's certainly a really great one to be able to look at right here. So definitely this is really cool to be able to have the advanced view. So the thing with the Home Patrol 1 and 2 that sets some of the other radios apart, it is a zip code based scanner. So it can be programmed through a zip code. It also can be creating favorites lists as well. For me, being I would say, a advanced user of scanners, the favorites lists are the best for me. The zip code I do not use because a lot of times it's pulling in way too much data. With the Home Patrol, which was the first database scanner, it was geared towards entry-level users. They needed a digital scanner that's simple to program, and it wasn't a radio that basically was for the advanced user. Uniden, over the years, basically figured out a way to balance, giving you an easy-to-use radio plus some advanced features. So if you grow into the hobby, in this case with the SDS100 or 200, you can program it by zip code. As you start to learn how to use the radio, you can start messing around with things, such as these displays. Here is some of the menu options for the displays. You can see there's a lot of things here. This is directly from your user manual. So these screenshots are from the user manual, and it shows all the things that you can customize and add to the display. If you were running a GPS receiver on the scanner, you could actually have the radio display GPS latitude, longitude. You can also have it display, whether or not this particular channel is a recorded channel. You can have it display all types of data. And we really like our bells and whistles, certainly for us advanced users. Just grabbing a quick drink of water here. So let's look at the add-ons. A lot of people talk about, do I need it? Do I not need it? Let's take a look at some of the add-ons with this particular radio. Okay, out of the box, here's what it works on. It works on phase 1 and phase 2 digital trunking. It works on analog, EDAX, Motorola, LTR trunking. It also works on FM narrow, FM, and AM modulation. So that's out of the box. So if you're listening to a standard P25 phase 1 or phase 2 system, you're in luck. It's going to work fine with that. If you're looking to monitors such as DMR or Mobo Turbo, you're going to need an upgrade. You're also going to need an upgrade for NXDN, or Next Edge as otherwise known. Or if you're looking to monitor Pro Voice, you're going to need an upgrade for that. So what is the big deal with this? Why didn't Uniden include these upgrades with the scanner out of the box? Unfortunately, each one of these, Uniden has to pay licensing fees for DMR, NXDN, and Pro Voice. So the only time they have to pay licensing fees is if these particular items are activated on the radio. In turn, if they've added all 3 of these on the radio would cost even more. Most people don't need DMR, Next Edge, and Pro Voice. The radio is already expensive as it is, so Uniden didn't want to add more cost. So if you need DMR, you order the upgrade. Basically, your serial number is used to register the radio on Uniden's website. You can pay for the upgrade there, and that upgrade is for your radio. It can't be shared amongst any other radio. So when you buy an upgrade with your for your SDS100 or 200, it is for that particular radio. So it's going to be registered to that serial number of that radio. So keep that in mind there. NXDN, same thing. Pro Voice, same thing. With those are all paid upgrades. So if you do sell the radio is worth more value because it has these upgrades. So make sure if you do end up selling your SDS100 or 200, make sure you say, it includes the following upgrades, and that makes it more valuable. For the most part, if you don't have any of these digital formats in use, you don't need to get them. If eventually you want to, you can always order and add it to the radio. So what ends up happening is when you order it, you go to Uniden's website, you register the radio. Once the radio is registered there, then you would basically purchase that upgrade through their website. They will then give you a key, which you will go into the menu, into the settings, and it'll be upgrade. And then you would select the upgrade that you want. Let's say it's NXDN. Then you would enter in that key, and then it would activate that NXDN on that radio. So it'll be able to work on those particular channels or trunking systems. For the most part, if you were looking to get the upgrades, I would say DMR and NXDN would be the good investment. Pro Voice, if it's not existing today, a Pro Voice system, then it's not going to be here tomorrow. Pro Voice is an older digital trunk system. So there's no Pro Voice systems coming online in the future. So any of the systems that are out there eventually probably will go to some other system, such as a P25 Phase 2 maybe, or a Phase 1, or something else of its nature. So Pro Voice is an older technology, so if you don't have any Pro Voice in the area, don't bother investing into it. The only Pro Voice system that I've monitored was the MBTA's trunking system for their bus and subway ops, which they're currently using. And I believe I heard some rumblings. Eventually, they're going to upgrade that at some point. Digital communications sounds different. If you haven't listened to digital, it does sound different than analog. Essentially, it is binary code. It's data going across the air, from the transmitter to the radio and back and forth. So it's binary code, zeros and ones. So typically when you're on the fringe of a system, it's either going to come in really clear or it's going to hiccup or nothing at all. So that's how that binary code, it needs all the zeros and ones and everything in order for it to be able to come through on the radio. So great things here with the digital format. So I just wanted to explain all that. Get what you need, essentially. One of those commercials, I can't remember which insurance company, you're paying for what you need, essentially in the same case here. So the biggest thing for popularity of this radio is it addresses the simulcast issues. The simulcast issues were a problem for a while. I mean, what was going on was, a lot of people got digital scanners. As trunking became more popular, they started creating these simulcast sites. So with a simulcast site, it operates a little bit different. Simulcast sites share the same exact frequency set on each tower. And all the traffic is identically the same on each frequency on the site. Each simulcast tower has the same ID, and it's considered a single site when programming it into the scanner. What does that all mean? What does that all mean? You're probably like, okay, so think of your best friend. And your best friend is talking to you, and you clone your best friend. So they're both talking to you at the same time, repeating the same thing at you. That's basically what simulcast is each tower is talking on the same frequency at the same time. So your radio is receiving two signals at the same time. And it's like going, I don't know which one to listen to. You may be in between two towers, they're super strong. Your radio is trying to determine which tower to lock in on. So it's getting confused. It's getting the same signal, and what ends up happening is the binary code gets all wacky. Maybe it's the ever slightest delay on each tower, probably not noticeable, but the radio gets it, and it's all like, whoa, it's so what it's doing is it's dropping out, it's hiccuping. When you're listening to a simulcast site on a regular scanner outside of the SDS100, the signal meter is going up and down. It's doing all types of crazy stuff. So what ended up happening is Uniden came out with the SDS100 and 200, which addressed the simulcast issue. Prior to this, the only radio that would address it was the Unication pager, which is not a traditional scanner, but it works really well. So we sold a lot of them at Scanner Master when I was there, the Unication pager, because it addressed the simulcast issues. There were some customers that were in simulcast hell, I guess, to coin it, and they were dealing with a lot of issues. Their radio was super confused with what signal to look at and everything. So Unication was a leader in addressing the simulcast issues. So Uniden said, we need to step it up, and we need to figure out a radio that's going to address the simulcast issues. So what came out was the SDS100 and 200. Software-driven scanner, less hardware. It is working really well. The other thing, too, when Uniden was building this radio, they improved the digital quality across the board, whether it be Phase 1, Phase 2, NXDN, DMR, Pro Voice. I mean, this radio is a trooper when it comes to digital. So its primary focus and functionality was addressing all of the digital issues, with simulcast. Also improving the digital audio quality. But the thing is, it works okay on analog. If you're monitoring more than 50% or 75% of analog, I would probably look at one of the other radios, such as the 536 or the 436 or the 996 or the 325. Reason being, it works okay on analog. It's kind of gotten a bad rap, for the analog. It's not as crisp and clear as some of the other counterpart radios, because this radio was basically built for digital. For me, my opinion, it works fine on analog and digital. But you've seen it on Radio Reference where they've talked about, that's not so great on analog. But a lot of this is opinion of people. Everybody's got an opinion. Some people will say, works great on analog. Some people say it's mediocre. Best use your own judgment. But if you're going to be monitoring a vast majority of analog and a little bit of digital, I probably would save the money and look at one of the other radios. So binary code, again, as we talked about earlier, zeros and ones transmitting in the air. So works really well. The thing when I was working with this radio, I was super impressed. I was in the middle of a big box store monitoring the Rhode Island trunk system. Matter of fact, I was just over the state line into Massachusetts monitoring the Rhode Island trunk system. I was in the middle of the store, and I was still able to pick up the trunk system as if I was outside. So the SDS really kicks butt, reception-wise on those digital systems, and of course on the simulcast. Programming software. We've done whole shows on programming software. We've talked about this a lot. This is a bit of a review for some of you that watch the show regularly. Sentinel software is the software that you get when you're purchasing the Home Patrol or any of the database scanners, such as the 436, 536, and SDS100 and 200. The Home Patrol 1 and 2 have their own version of the Sentinel software. So when you download the software, make sure you're downloading the right version of the Sentinel software. So what can you do with the Sentinel software? Well, it's bullet pointed on the side there. So of course, you're able to update the firmware. You're able to update the database. You're able to do global settings of the radio. So you're able to do all those things. So firmware, database, and global settings. The biggest thing that I use all the time is creating favorites lists. So I'm able to create favorites lists and of course edit them. The other thing with the Sentinel software, there's no paying Radio Reference subscriptions. The software has the Radio Reference database included. So what you're able to do within the software is you go up to the Update tab, and then usually on Mondays or Sundays, they ping the Radio Reference server for the latest and greatest database, and you can update the database inside the software. Once you do that, you're going to want to write it to the scanner. So you're going to need to write that. In case you're running this for zip code based programming, that's definitely very important that you do that. So we would strongly recommend when you purchase a brand new scanner and you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're going to be creating favorites lists, first thing I want you to do, update the database in the software. Then also update the firmware inside the radio. And don't forget to write the database to the scanner. You can download the Sentinel software from Uniden's website, uniden.com. So the Sentinel software is free and it works with the radio. And you can do some basic programming by creating favorites lists. So some really good stuff. You know, you're spending a lot of money on the scanner, so at least the programming software is free. Moving on. So of course, we have ProScan, which is out there, which you're able to do some cool stuff with that. You also have the Butel software. We can't go without a show without talking about Butel. My friend over there, Gomert, over in the Netherlands, has operated Butel for many, many years, created a whole bunch of software for programming. So if you end up doing the ARC 536 Pro software, which I strongly recommend, this is really good. It's well worth the money. You can create favorites lists within the software. And the other thing about the Pro version, which I absolutely love, is the virtual control. So you're able to virtually control the scanner, which is the screen that you can see over on the right. And you're also to do some data logging. So you'll be able to connect this up to the computer. It'll log, you know, all the radio transmissions that have occurred with the timestamp and so forth. And also we'll have a hit counter, which is really nice. So if you wanted to run the radio overnight, see if you get any new unlisted talk groups on the trunk system you're monitoring, that's a real cool hunting for talk groups. So as I've talked to Dale Osborne and a lot of other radio maintainers, not everything is listed on Radio Reference for these trunk systems. A lot of times, you know, the popular talk groups that are listed. Sometimes there's some talk groups that don't see any activity until there's a reason for activity, such as a storm or maybe an event. You know, that talk group will have life at that point and then go silent for a while. So the great thing about it is you can run the software, you know, on your computer, connect up the scanner up to it with virtual control, and allow the radio to run all day and all night or all week, and then look for talk groups that are not listed on Radio Reference, which is really cool, and then discover what they are. So software, a little different here. When creating the favorites list, if you're building them by scratch, you do need, with the Butel software, a Radio Reference subscription. That costs about $15 for 6 months. The full year is $30. So the software is $69.95 at last check, if I remember correctly. That's the Pro version. The basic version is about $40, if I remember correctly. So software is certainly great. If you're into doing customization of those favorites lists, you really want to customize a lot, and you're used to the Butel software and its style of programming of your radio with the spreadsheets and what such, I would strongly recommend the software. And spend a few more bucks and get the Pro version. So the ARC 536 will work, of course, with the ARC 536, the 436, and the SDS100 and 200. So it will work with all four radios. The other thing, too, is you have the ability to write across the board to all four of those radios. So if you wanted to have the same favorites list for your 536 as your SDS 200 or 100, you can do that with the software. So, as I mentioned, Sentinel software programming, we do have a video that walks you through how to create a favorites list. So if you're brand spanking new to creating favorites lists with Sentinel software, we have a video for you. There's actually a link in the description. So definitely check out the description right here on this YouTube broadcast down below, which will link you to the broadcast. So after this show, if you want to learn how to create a favorites list with the Sentinel software, I break it down for you in a video. So definitely check that out and watch that. And if you haven't already and you're watching the channel for the very first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate that. Give this video a thumbs up. And then, of course, check out Train Aficionado. on YouTube as well. That's my other channel, and we do all types of things over there, including some scanner-related topics regarding rail fanning and scanning. So definitely some good stuff over there. A lot of our audience members learned about scanning the railroads through this show and then have branched over to the other show because they find it fascinating to be able to monitor the railroads. We've done whole videos about this topic here, Uniden SDSs, and of course GPS scanning. So GPS scanning is a lot of fun to be able to do that with your particular radio. Let's take a look at the next slide. So we basically made a new slide. I've been using the same old slide over and over for GPS scanning, understanding it. So you're going to, of course, use this in the vehicle. You do not need a GPS if you're using this in your house, unless you have a house on wheels and it travels. So this is primarily when you're mobile. So you can connect it up to both the SDS100 and 200, which is called a GPS receiver. So this GPS receiver is able to see the satellite. So what it's gaining from the satellite is your latitude and longitude as you travel. So the scanner sees that latitude, longitude, and then determines from the scanner's programming where you're at. Essentially, inside the database, in the background, which you can't fully see, is latitude and longitude for each agency in there with a radius. So typically, if we were talking about Boston, Massachusetts, so the city of Boston has got a center point and then it's got a radius that covers the city. So maybe it's a 10-mile radius. So as soon as you enter into that 10-mile radius, those Boston channels will start turning on. As soon as you leave that radius, it'll turn off. So we got a red car on the screen. So think of it this way, you're going through each community or area. Each thing in the database has their own latitude, longitude. So as you make your way down the road, things are going to turn on and off because it's looking at, from the satellite, latitude and longitude from the satellite. So the scanner is able to determine where you're at. On the scanner itself, you can add a radius on there. I recommend putting it either to 1 mile or 0. If you put it to 50 miles, you're kind of defeating the purpose of how GPS scanning works. So that means you're going to be picking up a lot of signals on the fringe. Because think of your car having a radius around it. So what you want the scanner to do is to turn things on and off as you travel. Now the great thing about this is you can customize GPS scanning with software. A lot easier with ARC 536. If you're using the SDS100 and 200, there's a way that you can put in, if you're doing custom programming, you can put a center point and then a radius for that particular system, if it's a trunk system, or conventional channels. So that's a definite another thing to keep in mind if you're looking at doing customization programming and you're using GPS scanning. You definitely probably want to purchase a copy of 536, ARC 536 from Butel. So you can see here the red car is within the radius of the green circle. As it moves a little bit down the road, it's going to be in the range of both the green and the red, and then eventually it's going to move further down the road, and then the green circle is going to go off, and then the red will stay on, and then the blue will turn on, and so forth. So as you move, this is going to turn things on and off as you travel. So Scanner Master has a GPS receiver. So it's the BCSGPS GPS module kit. So this kit works on all of the radios. It has a whole bunch of stuff in the box. Depending on your radio, you're probably only going to use a couple of things in the box. So what we have on the screen is all of the things in the box. This is actually from the manual. It's directly from the manual. I was able to screenshot it and put it into the slide deck tonight. So baud rate 9600, 9600 for the baud rate, 9600, that's what you want to run it at. So the GPS module is the little antenna. Then we have a converter, which that antenna connects up to. And then you also need the telephone cord. I forgot about that. That RJ14. You also need that. I didn't put a green box around that. You also need to power this antenna. And then you also need the USB cable that's listed there. So you actually need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are on that screen. So you can discard the dual RS232 cable, and you can also discard the custom jack cable. So you're going to need all of those. So it's going to connect up to the GPS module. Then you're going to use the RJ14 cable, connect it up to the converter. You're going to use the power cord, connect that up to the converter. And then you're going to plug in the RS232 into the converter. So all those things you're going to put into the converter, and then it'll plug into the side of the radio. So this, not to be confused, is only to receive latitude and longitude from the satellite. Doesn't do anything for reception, making your radio receive better. Your antenna does that. In this case, the rubber duck antenna that you see on the screen, or any type of antenna you put on outside of that rubber duck antenna, is going to improve reception. All this is doing is just receiving from the satellite latitude, longitude, and this is used to determine where you're at, and it turns it on as you travel. Now, for the SDS200, you only need 2 things: the GPS module and the RJ14 cable. 2 things. And guess what? You don't need to put a power jack. This jack on the back of the radio will power that GPS module. So you only need 2 things. So when you buy this kit, you can discard everything else. Keep it in case you decide to use it with one of your other Uniden radios. But when you're using it with the SDS200, you can use these 2 items, and that's it. Yet again, 5600 for the baud rate, and the model number of this kit is the BCS GPS, and that's the GPS module kit. And yes, Larry, you can make it so you can see latitude, longitude coordinates on the screen. You'll have to customize the screen in order to be able to see that. So you would do that customization using the Sentinel software. So that is something that you would do with the Sentinel software. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about customizing the display, you would do that through the Sentinel software. We did a whole video on that, so definitely check that out as well. Sorry guys, a lot of comments there. I hope that I can answer some of those questions that you have. If I do miss any questions, I'm sorry. It looks like Joe Bearcat is, of course, is assisting with many of those questions. Thank you so much, Joe, for helping out in the chat. And a lot of you are communicating with each other, answering each other's questions, which is really nice. I love this community because we're all willing to share our knowledge and give a helping hand. So that's the GPS module. In this case, 2 things are needed. In the SDS200, a couple more things are needed. So, with that being said, we've covered a lot tonight, a lot to unpack during this show. So this was the 5 things you should know about the SDS100 and 200. We talked about the display, we talked about the buttons and the knobs. We also talked about the programming software. We also talked about GPS scanning, Simulcast, and of course those digital add-ons, which are NXDN, DMR, and Pro Voice, and all of those add-ons and what they're all about and why they're an add-on. So let me share my screen real quick with you guys. Actually, I'm sharing it. I'll come back on the screen so I can talk to you guys a little bit before we wrap up things tonight. But yeah, a lot of check-ins. Let's Go Rail Fanning, Lincoln, Todd, Joe Bearcat, Buster Jones, Steve, Arthur, Larry, Adam, Richard, Nigel, I Am, ScanFan Ed, Charles, so many of you watching tonight. If I missed you, I do apologize. Billy, Jason, and then of course our good friend Dale Osborne is not able to participate in the chat, but he is listening as he's driving back home. He had to do a little bit of traveling today, but he is listening tonight. But some really cool stuff about these SDSs. A lot of questions about new radios, which Joe Bearcat kind of addressed. You know, there's some radios apparently waiting in the wings to be released, but these supply chain issues have created some issues, and of course, that makes sense. With Uniden, they're trying to relieve the supply chain issues, and of course, they're trying to make sure that their current product line can be delivered on time and stay in stock. So once they get that stabilized, then I think the next thing they're probably going to do is then they can start looking at radios and rolling out some new radios if there's some waiting in the wings. Just looking around at some of the comments and questions right now. Joe's answered a whole bunch of them. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, the radio, there's a lot to it. I've only covered a little bit. We can only put so much within an hour. And I wanted to give you, some of the background of the radio. Of course, it's a beefier footprint with the SDS200. It reminds me of the footprint of the 780, which I have on the shelf back there. The 780 is a taller, bigger radio. And then, of course, the SDS100 looks very similar to the current 436 HP. Big difference. This radio moved away from the AA batteries to a battery pack. So it has a battery pack. The reason being is they want the battery life to last longer. The radio is able to do a lot more, and traditional batteries were probably not enough oomph. So they ended up doing a battery pack in the back. Typically, question I guess all the time, how long will the radio battery last? Depends. If you get the volume cranked all the way up, you get the backlight on, all those things contribute to draining the battery. So the brightness of the screen also has a big effect. So things I recommend, not running it at full volume if possible, and of course, allowing the backlight to turn off occasionally when there's nothing going on the radio. There's no reason for you to watch the radio to scan. You can set it so every time it receives a radio transmission, that backlight comes on and illuminates. And so you're able to look at the screen and be able to see who's communicating. So all those things are battery saving, typically anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. Depending on your usage, that's going to vary. Because, you may be running the backlight on all the time. You may have the volume cranked up. You may be monitoring a lot of radio transmissions. So, of course, that speaker is getting a workout. It's cranking out some volume there. But yeah, all types of cool stuff with the radio. These radios, and the biggest beef that we hear all the time, price, price, price. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about these radios. So they're priced at these prices because they come with a lot of technology. I mean, they addressed a lot of issues. They put a lot of work and energy into it. And of course, it's a software-driven radio. So it's got a little bit different setup than the other radios. The thing about the price, why don't we see drastic sales on it? So Uniden ended up putting on what we call MAP pricing in the retail industry, which basically means that all the retailers need to stay on MAP pricing. So the big box store online, Amazon, was undercutting the small scanner companies, such as undercutting Scanner Master and their competitors. I don't need to name them. You guys know who they are. They're just like Scanner Master. They sell scanners. They're a small company just like Scanner Master. So Amazon was undercutting those companies such as ScannerMaster, because they could sell this for less and make money on something else. So with Amazon, they could sell certain things at cost just to move it, just to have it in on its website, just for the sake of having it. And then other things, they make a huge profit on it. So Amazon, can run this at whatever price. So Uniden said we need a clear playing field where, Amazon's not hurting the little mom and pop such as ScannerMaster and the other places. So they created what they call map pricing. So nobody can go below X amount of dollars. I'm guessing eventually if Uniden says, okay, to everybody, you can go to this price, you can do that. But as of right now, prices are where they stand. You don't see them going on sale. You do see accessories going on sale and such. But yeah, the thing is, ScannerMaster and the competitors that are like ScannerMaster, one, have to keep the lights on. So, and they need to make some profit on this radio in order to do that. Especially, I'm talking for ScannerMaster. I don't work there full-time anymore. But the thing is, with ScannerMaster, you get a 1-800 number. You're calling somebody right here in the United States. And you're getting support for when you purchase a scanner from there. When you buy a scanner from Amazon, you have no 1-800 number. They don't have any programming services whatsoever. So you buy it, you got to figure it out. With ScannerMaster, you buy it, you get support. You can talk to a person about the radio. You can ask questions before you buy it. You can call up and ask questions after. They also have programming services available. So if you're not too technically savvy with a computer, ScannerMaster is able to do setup and optimization for a small fee to be able to get the scanner ready to go out of the box once you receive it. If you get the radio from Amazon or any of those big box stores and you're completely computer savvy, then you're good. If you're not, then you can do an SD card replacement, which ScannerMaster will set up that SD card and program it for your local area, which is great. So you don't have to send in your $600 or $650 radio. So, these are certainly great things. So if you're purchasing a scanner, we do have an affiliate link in every one of our videos that we post on YouTube. The affiliate link, basically what that does is when you press that link, it'll take you to ScannerMaster.com. Purchase the scanner online, we will get a small percentage of the sale. That helps us to keep our lights on as well. So definitely, if you're looking to buy an SDS100 and 200 and you're watching this video and you're ready to pull the trigger and buy it, hit that affiliate link, place the order online through ScannerMaster, and that helps us out as well. So those are basically all the things that I can mention about the SDS100 and 200 tonight. But we greatly appreciate you guys watching each and every night. I see Larry, he bought his SDS100 at Dayton Hamvention from ScannerMaster. Unfortunately, when you're doing a transaction like that, there's no way to be able to make sure that we get a small percentage of that. That's fine. You're at Dayton Hamvention, you want an instant gratification. But if you're ordering it online, definitely hit that affiliate link. We would greatly appreciate it. Let's look at a couple of slides, and then we'll wrap this up for this evening. We appreciate every one of you watching tonight. We appreciate your support of the channel. We would love for you to watch us on the YouTube channel, Train Aficionado YouTube channel as well. So let's take a look at the slide deck, and then we'll wrap it up for this evening. Of course, this was the 5 things you should know about the SDS100 and 200. Those are the things that we covered tonight. Of course, this conversation, we can talk a lot about these radios. There was questions about filters. Tonight, I'm not totally prepared to talk about filters as of right now. So I'm going to have to, do a little bit digging in that. I haven't messed with too much with those filters since I beta tested the radio. I want to give you a fair description of those filters. So I haven't, looked at those filters in quite a while. A lot of times with those filters, you're adjusting the analog, you're adjusting the digital. What I recommend, if you do mess with the filters, write down your starting point, because you may actually do something in the filter and you're like, oh God, I don't like the way this is receiving. So what you want to do is jot down your starting point for these filters, so you have ability to go back to what the original factory settings was on these filters. These filters were used during beta testing to adjust the digital quality. Those filters, you're going to go back and forth on them. Factory default on those filters may be perfectly fine. Or, you may adjust it and it comes in even better. And you may run this on a different system and it's, maybe it's not the best filter for it. So it's going to vary from location to location. Adjusting a filter either way is going to improve or worsen the quality of the signal or reception or whatever it may be, depending on the filter that you're using. So definitely be careful when messing with filters. As always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by viewers like you. You shop the merch store at thescannerguyshow.com. That helps us out here. Also, by ordering all your scanner products through Scanner Master's affiliate link in the description, you want to make sure that you use that affiliate link when purchasing online from Scanner Master. That does help us out. We greatly appreciate that. Next show will be on Train Aficionado's YouTube channel. Not too sure what the topic will be. I don't know when Danny Harmon will be on again, but we'd love to have him on. But Train Aficionado on YouTube. Make sure you hop over there, subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate that. The next show will be live on Wednesday, July the 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check the website for upcoming events. We will be adding some more of those events relatively soon. We will have another rail fanning outing next month for the month of August. Boy, this month is going by fast. We're already the 12th already. So make sure you join us Wednesday, July the 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. Make sure, if you haven't done this already, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, at The Scanner Guys. And make sure you check out the website, thescannerguyshow.com. You can shop our store, contact us, and sign up for the newsletter. We'll definitely roll out, hopefully, a newsletter relatively soon for both the Scanner Guys and Train Aficionados, so be on the lookout for that. We would greatly appreciate that as well. So tonight's topic, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, 5 things you should know about the SDS100 and 200. This is only a short list. This is giving you a couple of things to consider. What the radio looks like with the buttons and display, programming software options, what's these digital add-ons about, what's its claim to fame, of course, is the Simulcast, and then doing GPS scanning in the vehicle. So great show tonight, great conversation there. If I wasn't able to get to your questions tonight, I think Joe got to a vast majority of them. I do apologize. As for the filter thing, I need to mess with them again. I haven't touched them in years. So filters, just be careful with them. You don't want to go too crazy with them, and start with a starting point and jot it down. And then as you move back and forth with the filter, if it worsens it, you know where your starting point is. So definitely keep that in mind. Be safe out there, and keep cool if you're dealing with some heat. Of course, the United States has been quite warmer temperatures being in the middle of the summer. We greatly appreciate everyone joining tonight. Jim, thanks again for your comments and we greatly appreciate the great job and the thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing some more SDS100 and 200 videos. Nigel asked a quick question. Butel frequency log hits. Yes. So all of the Butel software, for the vast majority, there's a pro and a basic. So the major difference in between the basic and the pro version has the virtual screen, data logging, and all that. The basic is primarily just for programming. So the pro version, has the virtual screen, the data logging, and all that business. So if you're looking to take advantage of that, then do that. If you're just looking to use the Butel software for just programming and you don't care about any of that other stuff, then do the basic. But in this case, you're spending a lot of money on the SDS100 and 200. I would say, if possible, if you can afford it, definitely do the pro version. And the other thing too, which I always say, and I'm a big carrying case guy, you're spending a fortune on this radio. Get a carrying case. Can't stress enough, if you're using this radio, out and about, get a carrying case. Protect the radio, protect the investment. If you're really clumsy, get the hard leather carrying case. This one here is the leather case, and there's also a nylon case. These are all available from Scanner Master, and they also have the rivet in the back, which you can put a belt clip on and use it. So this radio, I would strongly recommend the carrying case, and it's also vented for for air here in case it gets a little warm. It's got the plastic covering, of course, the screen and the keypad. It's got the opening for the function button and the menu button, and of course for the jacks that are on this side as well. So you have access to everything with this carrying case. So I'd strongly recommend investing in a carrying case. Well, that'll wrap it up for us this evening. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We hope that you have a great evening. We will catch you again next week on Train Aficionado Live, and then we'll have on the 26th, we'll be back again with the Scanner Guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you again next week on Train Aficionado Live. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.